tell you, it's not easy. Here's what he does. He takes the pawn. Now, in some ways, that's counterproductive because the queen at least was defending the weakest point. But I think he's getting desperate. So, what can black do to continue his attack? In fact, I'd rather us put it this way. I'm going to give you somewhat of a hint. What's the most efficient way for black to continue this attack? So take a moment to pause the video and see if you could figure out the best move for black. Okay, here it is. The bishop retreats, and if you think about this, this is the discovered attack, in a sense, because now he's attacking that pawn. But the bishop isn't just retreating, it's also attacking. Okay? What does black do? Well, not a good move. The correct move would be to go back here, maybe to this square. That would be the correct move. And then, if black did this, he could at least try to protect things. Black, after this move, moving the queen back was the better defense. What he actually did was take a pawn, and so now, and this is a good piece of advice for you, is that when your king is under attack, don't abandon your king, and especially don't go after some pawns. And sometimes this happens anyway, where your pieces are on the wrong side of the board while your king is being attacked. Okay, so in this position, black probably has more than one way to win, but Morphy doesn't look for a way to win, he looks for the best way to win. So it's now black to move. If you were playing black, what would you do here? And I'm going to remind you to take your time, because this is a crucial move right here. Okay? Okay. Now, if you look at the score sheet of the game, this is the exact score sheet from my book by Paul Morphy. You see, it says it's actually in descriptive notation, so it doesn't say queen to c7. It says queen x pawn. And let's go back one move. Okay. And in the descriptive notation, it says queen takes pawn. And what's the next move? The next move is the game's over. And you say, what? What happened? Well, Morphy had this habit, and I think it was something done back in this period of time in the middle to late 19th century, of not actually playing a move, but instead announcing a forced checkmate. And once the opponent realized what was going to happen, he would resign. So that was one way to end a game. So you could end a game by checkmating your opponent, but rather than do that, announcing checkmate was kind of a flourish, you might say. Maybe it's showing off a little bit. And while still blindfolded, Paul Morphy says, I have a checkmate in 5 moves. That's it. End of game. The other player realizes, oh, yes, you do. Okay. And that's the end of the game. So it's kind of funny. It's not done very much anymore. Maybe it's considered, impolite or showing off. So now you already had a chance to try out and figure out whether you found the right move. If you found a checkmate in 5 moves without even knowing about this, that's very good. I'm very impressed. But if you didn't, now you have a big hint that black actually has a forced checkmate in 5 moves. Can you see it? Morphy saw it, and he wasn't even looking at the board. Let's see what you can do. First thing first is just to see if you could figure out the first move that would continue a really very fine attack. So here's the first move. Is rook takes pawn, check. Or I should say, I just went back into descriptive notation. Rook takes pawn, check. It's actually rook takes g2, check. And in fact, that's a forcing move. And that's typical of situations where you're announcing checkmate in 5 moves. So take a look at the position. You see there's only one thing that white can do. And can you figure out what you do next with black? Okay, so white has no choice. The king has no other moves but to take that. What do you do with black to move? Well, there's actually more than one way to get checkmate, but we want to make sure we get checkmate in 5 moves like Morphy predicted. So the answer is check here. And this is again a forcing move. And if you think about it, white only has 2 places to go, either here or here. All right? So if it goes there, the next move is to play here. You don't want to let that king escape to this square, so we stop that immediately. The king only has one choice, and then we bring the rook here, and you suddenly realize, wait a minute, the king has no moves. So let's just go back for a minute. I just want to make sure we get the count right. This is the first move. This is the second move. This is the third move. And the fourth move. You see what white can do? White can delay the inevitable. And now we have checkmate in 5 moves. See that? No place that the king can go. Let's go back a minute. See this again. Remember that Morphy was able to see 5 moves ahead and was outside of the board. But before I go any further, besides that move, there was one other move white could play, which is here. So if that happened, then what? You should be able to see this. The black rook goes there, check. And if the king goes up here, white can make it, can delay the inevitable by playing there first. And now, of course, takes. King goes there. The queen can go there. When you say checkmate in 5 moves, you really mean 5 moves or less. So this is a forced checkmate. Well, I hope you enjoyed that game. I'll tell you, one of the things that made me stick with chess was because I found it really enjoyable. And partly because of these kinds of games. To me, they were artistic works of art, basically. And at times, I occasionally try to live up to the style of people like Paul Morphy and Capablanca. So remember these 2 names, Capablanca and Morphy. We'll hear about them again. And they're really 2 of the greatest players of the late 19th and early to middle 20th century. There are several other great players too that you will become familiar with in future lessons.